I sat there in that dimly lit ballroom on the outskirts of Detroit, the kind of place where old auto barons used to seal deals over steak and whiskey, my fork hovering over a half-eaten plate of herb-crusted salmon. At 32, I'd flown back to Michigan for the first time in a decade, right before my sister's engagement party. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and fresh flowers, but underneath it all simmered the resentment I'd buried deep. My mother, Evelyn Grant, stood up during the toasts, her voice slicing through the chatter like a teacher's reprimand in a crowded classroom. She declared to the room full of relatives and friends that I'd wasted my life, chasing frivolous dreams in graphic design out in New York, instead of building something real like my sister had. The nods around the table stung like silent accusations, until her fiancé leaned in close, his eyes wide with recognition, and whispered words that froze the entire party in its tracks. Growing up in that tidy suburb of Detroit, where every house on the block looked like it came from the same assembly line neat lawns, American flags fluttering in the breeze, it felt like living in a pressure cooker of expectations. My father, Harlan Grant, worked as a quality control supervisor at one of the big auto plants, the kind that kept the Motor City humming with steady paychecks but left him too exhausted to challenge the status quo at home. Mom, a high school social studies teacher, ruled with an iron fist wrapped in Midwestern politeness, measuring success by stable jobs, community standing, and paths that mirrored the neighbors' kids heading off to Michigan State for business or engineering degrees. She saw life as a straight highway, no detours allowed, especially not into the unpredictable world of creativity. My sister, Lila, for years younger, slipped right into that mold from the start. She was the golden child, straight-A student, captain of the debate team, volunteering at the local food bank to pad her resume. By high school, she was interning at a downtown accounting firm, crunching numbers for small businesses and earning glowing letters of recommendation. Mom plastered her awards on the fridge like trophies, turning family dinners into Lila's personal victory laps. Me? I was always the outlier, doodling logos and layouts in my notebooks, redesigning our cluttered garage into a makeshift studio with scavenged materials. At 13, I entered a local art contest with a poster design for a community festival, winning second place from judges who included pros from ad agencies in Ann Arbor. Dad gave it a gruff nod over breakfast, saying it looked sharp, even if he didn't get the artsy stuff. Mom glanced at it, then pivoted to Lila's latest math Olympiad ribbon, tucking mine away in a junk drawer upstairs. That pattern dug in deeper through the years, carving invisible scars. When I scored a freelance gig redesigning flyers for the principal's charity event, Mom called it playing around with pictures instead of focusing on real skills for college apps. Lila's summer job at a tax prep office? That warranted a neighborhood potluck, with aunts and uncles toasting her future in finance. Mom's words to her bridge club friends carried like gospel, "Elena has a spark." Sure, but she wastes it on hobbies that won't pay the rent in this economy. The praise for my spark always twisted into a backhanded slap, reminding me I was straying from the approved script. It chipped away at me, making every small win feel like it came with an asterisk. High school ramped up the divide, turning quiet resentments into open wounds. I started picking up side jobs for local shops, creating branding packages on a beat-up laptop I bought with saved allowance. The checks rolled in enough to fund software upgrades, but Mom dismissed them as pocket change, not a career foundation. Lila's clerking gigs at corporate firms? Those built her into the family's rising star, complete with framed certificates in the living room. When colleges came calling, my acceptance to a design program in New York with a partial scholarship got a quick family dinner at home. Lila's offers a few years later, Mom organized a full-blown celebration at a chain restaurant, calling relatives to brag. The favoritism wasn't just words, it was actions, eroding my confidence like rust on an old Ford. Aunt Marjorie, Mom's sister from the next town over, fanned the flames at every holiday gathering, whispering to cousins about Elena's impractical fantasies while hyping Lila as the sensible one. Dad overheard it all but stayed silent, offering only vague pats on the back like, "Your mom just wants what's best," his passivity letting the poison spread unchecked. The breaking point hit during my sophomore year at college, when a Manhattan ad firm spotted my portfolio, a series of campaign mocks for urban nonprofits, and offered a paid internship that demanded I drop out to go full-time. It was a golden ticket, hands-on experience in client pitches, digital tools, and tight deadlines. But over a tense phone call home, Mom exploded, calling it quitting and irresponsible, spreading the word to her school colleagues and church group that I was throwing away my future. Dad called separately, murmuring caution but offering no real support, his neutrality just another layer of betrayal. I took the leap anyway, packing up for New York, where the firm's fast-paced world sharpened my edge. Projects poured in, rebranding tech startups, designing viral social campaigns that boosted client revenues by double digits. Soon, I launched my own agency, Apex Creative, from a cramped Brooklyn loft. Starting with spec work for fintech execs, early breaks snowballed, a multi-million-dollar contract to overhaul digital marketing for a chain of boutique hotels, incorporating interactive apps and eco-friendly visuals that went viral in industry circles. Profits poured back into expansions, a team of designers, offices in Chicago, partnerships with real estate developers turning old warehouses into trendy co-working spaces. Apex hit valuations in the tens of millions, featured in Forbes for innovative campaigns tying into urban revitalization. But I kept it all under wraps from the family, shielding my wins from their conditional judgments. Contact dwindled to holiday texts, Mom dominating with updates on Lila's promotions in corporate auditing, while my vague mentions of freelance work met with skeptical hums. The silence became my armor, a deliberate wall against the pain of being undervalued. Weeks before the engagement, Lila emailed with party details at that upscale venue overlooking Detroit's revitalized riverfront, attaching a save-the-date photo of her and her fiancé, Marcus Kane, in coordinated outfits. The note was formal, almost businesslike, with a tacked-on plea for me to attend despite our busy lives. Hesitation clawed at me, the old hurts bubbling up, but skipping felt like admitting defeat. I confirmed, and Dad called days later, his voice gravelly from years on the factory floor, urging unity for the family's sake. "Your mother expects everyone there." And it'd mean the world to Lila, he said, mentioning how the neighbors were already gossiping about the big event. He awkwardly admitted he glimpsed my success in a business magazine profiling Apex's hotel campaigns, but clarified Mom brushed it off as flash in the pan. His half-hearted apology, "I should have spoken up more," rang hollow after a decade of silence. We ended with logistics, me booking a flight. But the call unearthed the rot. Nothing had changed. Memories of Detroit flooded back, the grid of streets where I'd biked to the old auto museums, Dad explaining engine specs in simpler times. The family home felt like a ghost now, its dated kitchen a symbol of stifled dreams. Lila had mentioned Marcus in passing, a commercial real estate developer focusing on Midwest revamps, turning derelict factories into mixed-use hubs. His background echoed my work vaguely, but I shoved aside any networking thoughts, bracing for survival mode. Dad texted pickup details from the airport, a small gesture across the Gulf. The pull of obligation clashed with my hard-won independence, setting the stage for a reunion laced with unspoken betrayals. Touching down in Detroit, the airport's hum of engines stirred old echoes of Dad's plant stories. He picked me up in his worn SUV, The drive home filled with small talk about traffic and weather. Skirting the minefield of emotions. The suburb hadn't changed much, same chain-link fences, same billboards hawking auto parts, but it felt constricted after New York sprawl. We arrived at the venue. A modern hall with river views and nods to Motor City history, framed photos of assembly lines, chandeliers mimicking headlights. Valets whisked cars away as relatives swarmed with awkward hugs. Probing about my city life, Mom greeted me with a stiff embrace, her eyes appraising, while Lila beamed beside Marcus, introducing me like a long-lost acquaintance. Dad lingered in the background, offering silent nods. The seating chart relegated me to a peripheral table with cousins, far from the head where Lila and Marcus held court. Mom waved it off as practical, but it screamed hierarchy. Aunt Marjorie hovered, murmuring to others about Elena finally surfacing with a tone-dripping curiosity over my mysterious job. Cocktails flowed, and Mom grabbed the mic for early toasts, lauding Lila's rise from accounting whiz to key auditor saving clients' fortunes through meticulous reviews. The room cheered as Lila blushed, Marcus squeezing her hand. Mom's nod to me was curt. Nice of Elena to join us despite her creative wanderings, the words laced with a chuckle that drew uneasy laughs, painting me as the family flake. Dinner plates arrived, seared tenderloin, roasted veggies, servers gliding efficiently as tension simmered. I made light chat with cousins about Detroit's comeback, dodging details on Apex. Mom circulated, steering praise back to Lila's role in Marcus's latest strip mall revamp. Marcus's father, Reginald Kane, a real estate old-timer, joined our table with a firm grip, quizzing me on New York trends. His genuine curiosity sparked talk of digital integrations for historic sites. Marcus chimed in politely, mentioning his firm's eye on modern branding for office flips. Mom interjected, defending the seating as for flow, her gaze sharp with control. The undercurrents boiled as wine loosened tongues, relatives toasting Lila's precision in audits that fueled Marcus's deals. Aunt Marjorie amplified with tales of Lila's early catches of financial red flags, her voice booming reliability. Mom raised her glass again, centering Lila's synergy with Marcus as the pinnacle of success, slipping in barbs about paths that ground you, not ones that drift away. The quip landed heavy, reinforcing my outsider status. Guests shifted, the air thick with unspoken judgments. Plates cleared, and Mom seized the spotlight once more, her voice authoritative as she contrasted Lila's empire of trust in numbers with my fleeting graphic fads that fade like last season's trends. The raw comparison stripped away pretense. Guests freezing mid-sip, whispers rippling. Aunt Marjorie nodded emphatically as Mom concluded on enduring choices. I gripped my napkin, the public shaming reopening every old wound, betrayal burning hot. Marcus, across the table, fiddled with his phone during the hush, scrolling a professional app for vendor databases. His face lit up, eyes locking on mine. Wait, he said, voice cutting sharp. You're Elena Hart of Apex Creative? The room halted, breaths held, silverware forgotten. He explained he'd been vetting firms that morning, spotting Apex in a top-tier list for digital rebrands that spiked hotel bookings 40%. Flashing his screen, he showed my agency's logo alongside revenue metrics and viral campaign highlights. Whispers grew, valuations in the 8 figures from expansions into commercial hubs. Mom paled, her glass trembling as relatives gasped, some pulling phones to confirm from business sites they'd ignored before. Lila's knife clattered, her shock raw as she leaned in. Marcus pressed on, we've been scouting Apex for our Detroit terminal revamp. Your interactive designs could revolutionize user flow. Tying into auto heritage. Reginald nodded, outlining budgets matching my biggest deals. The silence crackled. Mom stammering denials that dissolved under the evidence. Guests buzzed, congratulating me tentatively. The narrative flipping from dismissal to awe. Lila touched my arm, whispering, "Is this true?" Her voice laced with regret. Marcus detailed alignments with his eco-goals, proposing collaborations post-wedding. The shift was seismic. Mom sinking into her seat. Dad averting eyes. His complicity exposed. Aunt Marjorie fact-checked aloud. Her barbs silenced by glowing reviews. The energy pivoted to discussions on creativity's role in business, bridging the divide Mom had enforced. Post-reveal. I cornered Mom in a side alcove, away from the fading chatter. Unloading the pent-up fury. I detailed the Manhattan internship that birthed Apex, the multi-million hotel contract fueling growth. Ignored accolades in trade mags she'd scorned. Her defenses cracked, claiming tough love built resilience. But I fired back with specifics, like her gossip to colleagues contrasting my risks with Lila's stability. Lila slipped in, murmuring Mom meant well. But Marcus backed me, citing Apex's clout and their project's need for my expertise. Mom dug in, refusing to yield, praising Lila's audits as real over artsy gambles. Dad peeked in, silent as ever. The impasse solidifying. The night ended in terse farewells, relatives slipping me supportive notes while Mom seethed. Mourning at home with strained civility. Lila floating partnership ideas. But I shut it down, packing for the airport. The flight east was liberation from the toxic fog. A week later, in my New York office, I enacted the cut, blocking Mom, Dad, and Aunt Marjorie on every platform: phones, socials, emails, erasing their access to my world. Lila's texts begged reconciliation, tinged with sorrow over mistruths, but I let them echo unanswered. The silence my quiet vengeance. The fallout rippled fast through Detroit's tight-knit circles. Mom's teacher colleagues distanced themselves amid staffroom whispers labeling her bias outdated. Post-reveal screenshots circulating. Her once solid reputation frayed, lunches skipped. Event invites dried up in the appearance-obsessed Midwest web. Dad faced probing stares at the plant. Coworkers questioning his role in the hush, deepening his isolation from after-work beers. Aunt Marjorie's sway crumbled. Family chats ignored her spins. Unfollows piling as relatives favored Apex's verified successes. Church suppers sidelined her. The credibility loss a gut punch in communities where reputation is currency. Lila's calls multiplied. Wedding regrets pouring into voicemails that went unheard. Her pedestal cracked by the exposure. Professionally, Marcus's outreach firmed into contracts, but I navigated carefully. Boundaries firm against family entanglements. Apex surged on the momentum. Growth untainted by lineage. The severance cleared space for self-worth rooted in merit, not validation. In the end, this unraveling underscores the cost of unchecked devaluation. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. Silent cuts rewrite poisoned stories. But the scars remind us, betrayal's price echoes long after the silence falls.